My friend Sam came to pick me up for our 4-day hunting excursion, so I gave my wife a farewell hug. Sam had his truck loaded with all the necessary hunting equipment. Preparation was crucial if we wanted to succeed. He opened the truck bed and a drawer behind the cab. "Place your rifle in here," he instructed, pointing to the box. I stashed my rifle and gear inside before climbing into the cab and taking one last look at the house. The door was shut tight. Sam drove us to an old family cabin that his Uncle Earl, who was now too infirm to manage it himself, had entrusted to him. "I've made some significant upgrades," Sam said. "We've got better insulation and a more efficient wood stove now, so we won't be shivering in parkas all the time. This season, he even added a satellite dish for TV and internet." Sam continued, "There's no solid cell signal, but you can use WhatsApp over Wi-Fi if you need to call Nina." "She's not expecting much contact," I replied. "And I actually prefer being out of touch, so I won't mention the internet." During dinner, we watched SportsCenter. Later, I read a Michael Grant novel while Sam worked on his laptop. We were halfway through our second beers. This trip wasn't just about getting drunk. We were eager to test our skills against nature and hopefully bag some venison. Suddenly, Sam blurted out, "Oh, crap." I closed my book and turned to him. His eyes were fixed on the screen as he scrolled furiously. "Holy double crap," he muttered, then shot me a look of disbelief. I marked my page and asked, "What's going on, Sam?" I was anxious. Was he reading troubling news? Had something happened to Nina? His voice dropped to a whisper. "You need to see this." He angled the laptop towards me. I got up and moved closer, bracing myself for something awful. But it wasn't a news site, it was a social network. There, on the screen, was a picture of Nina smiling. I always thought her smile had a certain malevolence. "What is this?" I demanded, staring at Sam. "I'm sorry, Jake." "It's a dating site," he said, his voice heavy with helplessness. "A dating site?" I was incredulous. After my breakup with Lisa, I'd been in a dark place. I had spent months doing nothing until I finally started using Tinder and other sites to meet new people. Sam noticed my shock. "Some of these sites skip dating, go straight to hookups," he explained, trying to ease the situation. "I've had some luck a few times, but there are also wives on there, looking for something on the side." "Wives?" I echoed, my stomach twisting. "Are you telling me Nina is one of them?" "Yes, some wives and many husbands are looking for fun outside their marriages," Sam said, glancing at the screen. Another photo of Nina appeared, causing a knot to form in my gut. "Look, Jake," Sam said, trying to reassure me, "I've seen a lot of fake profiles. People use names and pictures without the owner's consent. Nina might be a victim of that." I scrutinized the profile, hoping it wasn't really Nina. The pictures were undeniably hers. Had they been hacked? One detail struck me painfully. The outfit in one of the photos was a Christmas gift I had bought her less than a year ago. I hadn't taken the picture. The profile read, "Can you help me with my daddy issues?" And I don't mean sugar daddy. I've always thought about what it would be like with my dad. Sometimes I picture him as a hot middle-aged man or even a virile retired guy. If you're clean and fit the description, send a photo. I'm alone this long weekend and would love some daddy-daughter time. Below the profile was a box saying, "Current status? Closing soon." I stared at Sam, bewildered. Daddy issues? What the hell? "This might be a good thing," Sam said quickly, noticing my reaction. "Some cheating wives are just exploring fantasies they're uncomfortable discussing. It could be about trying something new or even daddy fantasies." Sam shrugged, but I was not reassured. I read on, a lump forming in my throat. Sam remarked, "You found double crap." Double crap indeed. Nina's profile mentioned that her father's family hailed from Greece and Italy, which gave him a classic Mediterranean appearance, dark eyes, curly hair, and a strong Roman nose. The description fit me perfectly, not her father Patrick, who was a pale-skinned Irishman. Then, I reached the triple crap moment. Under Nina's profile was a box labeled "Join the chat room." I scrolled through messages and saw one that stood out. "Hi, I've had a lot of free time this month. Do you have a place for me?" Nina's reply was, "Oh yes, I can make room. Let me know when we can meet again. Did you enjoy last month?" Stunned, I muttered, "Screw me. She's been at this for a while." I looked at Sam and asked, "Can you tell how long she's been on this site? Maybe she's doing this for money." Sam took the laptop and navigated the site. "As far as I know, it's just a dating site. It doesn't look like she's running a business. It seems she's doing this for fun. She thought one time would be enough," Sam continued. I growled. "If it really was only once, she's having a whole weekend while I'm away." "Whoa, Jake," Sam interjected. "It's a pop-up site for speed dating, not long-term relationships." "Make a date with her," I demanded. "What?" "Swipe right or whatever and see if she's available this weekend." I found myself questioning whether she's genuinely enjoying herself while I'm stuck up here. Sam hesitated but said, "I can give it a try, though I don't quite match her expectations." She asked for a photo of me. It hit me like a ton of bricks. She wants a picture of me. I shared my idea with Sam. We could set her up using my photo. He thought it was a clever move but reminded me that time was slipping away. I suggested that, even though it was late, we could still sabotage her evening by posting in the chat room that I'm coming home armed with a rifle. Sam advised against giving her any warning. She mentioned being available on Friday and Sunday, planning to schedule a date for those days. Since Sam and I had taken Friday and Monday off to maximize our hunting trip, I wasn't due back until Monday afternoon. "If you text her now, she'll have time to concoct her stories," Sam said, frustration evident in his voice. I recalled that his own wife, Lisa, had left him for her boss. "If we head out now, we can catch her red-handed and get the proof we need," he said with a grin, eyeing Nina's profile. The drive home was a bit over 3 hours. We debated our options, prepping Nina for our arrival, tailing her on her dates, or catching her in the act. The most pressing issue was the looming divorce. Sam's painful experience with divorce law would be beneficial to me. 2 hours later, we were on our third run-through of the plan, mostly driving in silence. We rolled up to my street around 10:45, with Sam slowing in front of my house. I told him to keep driving. He shot me a sharp look but complied, pressing the gas pedal. "Turn the corner and stop," I instructed. He obeyed, then gave me another questioning look. "There's a car parked across from the house. It's not familiar." "Nobody parks on this street at night," I said. "She's already started and she's doing it in our house." I reached for the door handle. "Thanks for the ride. You can head out now." Sam was clearly frustrated, but we had a plan. "We either check it out together or deal with it tomorrow," he said. "No, I need to know now," I insisted. "Come on, Jake. If she's alone, it won't prove anything, and you'll still be left in a mess," he countered. "I need to know," I repeated firmly. "All right, plan B," he said, steering towards the alley behind my house. Sam spoke decisively. "Whether she's alone or not, we'll take a look around and then head to my place." He reflected on his painful divorce experience, remembering the rifle in the truck. Of course, I thought. Sam parked and we quietly approached my house, sticking to the shadows. I lifted the alley gate lever, hoping Nina had forgotten to lock it after taking out the trash. She had. We slipped inside. Our bedroom was in the back corner. A faint glow seeped through the curtains. Moving cautiously to avoid rustling leaves, we reached the larger window. I attempted to peek inside, but the curtain obstructed my view. Sam shook his head, signaling for me to move closer. I spotted a gap in the curtain and peered through, catching sight of Nina and an older man on the bed. I almost lost it and smashed the window, but remembered my Leatherman tool. I reached for it, only to feel Sam's hand restrain me. He signaled for silence and pulled me back. I resisted but eventually gave in. Sam threw his hands up in frustration, walked back to the gate, and I followed. We headed to his truck. I glanced at the lockbox under the vinyl upholstery, knowing it contained rifles, a .357 Magnum, and bear spray. Sam ignored my insistence and said, "We've been here too long." He started the engine and drove out of the alley. We parked in an empty grocery store lot a few blocks away. The store was closed, and only a few employees' cars remained. "Why don't I go in there and confront him?" I asked, longing for Sam's rational perspective. "Because you'd end up in jail," he replied. "It's not his fault." Nina invited him. "He probably doesn't even know she's married." I reminded myself to stay cold and cautious to handle the divorce in my best interest, echoing Sam's advice. Back at Sam's place, he locked all the weapons and bear spray in his cabinet, forbidding me from touching them while I was still reeling. We sat at the kitchen counter, Sam pouring tequila shots as we silently toasted to the chaos of our lives. We followed with Pacifico beers. "She's cheating on you with you," Sam said thoughtfully. "Maybe she's trying to reignite what you once had. I wasn't 55 back then, and our bed hasn't gone cold. Maybe she still loves you and just wants more. Maybe Daddy is how she rationalizes it." I shook my head, rejecting the notion. Sam suggested considering an open relationship to manage the situation. I shot him a look that clearly said, "Not happening," and asked for another pour. We overslept Friday morning but got back on track with our plans. Sam drove me to a car rental agency where I picked up a nondescript sedan. Then I visited a bank where Nina and I didn't have an account and opened a checking account with funds from our trip. I transferred half of our savings and 20% of our checking to the new account. The banker, Mark, advised me to leave enough in our joint account for mortgage, car loans, and credit card payments to protect my credit. He also helped me set up the bank's app on my phone. Next, I went to a T-Mobile store and bought a dual SIM phone with a high-end camera. I didn't switch our family account to avoid alerting Nina. Sam persuaded me to use the time until Monday wisely, even though I wanted to confront her right away. "Sir, is everything all right?" a T-Mobile employee asked, pulling me out of my grim thoughts. I realized I'd been zoning out at the table. "Sorry," I said. "I hurt my knee yesterday, and it's really bothering me." "Oh, that sounds painful," she said, sounding concerned but skeptical. "I hope you're feeling better soon." While she kept explaining, I hobbled out of the store, each step a reminder of my limp. Sam and I had planned to meet at Starbucks, where we took a moment to outline our next steps over coffee. After our meeting, we returned to my neighborhood. We parked Sam's conspicuous truck in the same supermarket lot we'd used last night, now overflowing with vehicles. Sam then drove us to my place in the rental car. This time, my car was safely tucked away in the garage, but Nina's car and the red Hyundai Accent were both absent. We pulled up to the alley, and I quickly hopped out and slipped through the back gate, which Nina had neglected to lock. I thought about giving her a reminder to lock it, but decided I was actually lucky she hadn't. The front door could draw unwanted attention from neighbors, so I followed the plan. Sam took up his position in the supermarket parking lot. We usually approached home via Tompkins Parkway and 3rd Street, keeping a vigilant watch on the house. Despite Nina being at work, I couldn't shake a sense of paranoia. Caution was our best friend. I unlocked the back door and entered the utility room. I used a pole to lower the attic ladder. As I peeked through the hatch, my walkie-talkie buzzed twice. Sam was ready. He would beep every 10 minutes to keep us on schedule. I quickly pressed the transmit button to confirm our connection. The attic was a cramped, awkward space, barely big enough to move around. I had to crouch to get anywhere. Fortunately, the bags I needed were close to the trapdoor. I grabbed a canvas duffel and an old, worn briefcase, avoiding my preferred bags from downstairs to minimize any trace. I shut up the attic and checked for any residual prints or marks. Then, I moved to the alcove in the living room, which doubled as our home office. I took out my passport, social security card, will, birth certificate, and marriage license from the small safe and packed them into the briefcase. There was also $2,000 in cash. I took half. The safe also had gold coins worth about $5,000, but I only took the receipt to avoid raising suspicion. Sam's double beep let me know I'd been inside for 10 minutes. I proceeded to the bedroom and picked up black slacks, 2 dress shirts, 2 ties, dress socks, and black loafers, just enough so Nina wouldn't notice any missing items. Setting up surveillance was the tricky part. At Starbucks, Sam and I figured out the new phone's time-lapse feature. We didn't need audio, visuals would suffice. I hid the phone behind some hats on a cabinet, making sure it captured 80% of the bed. I also adjusted the curtains to improve the view for next time, despite Sam's advice against it. As I finished up, Sam's 10-minute warning beeped again. I moved to the living room and set up a trail camera we'd borrowed from the cabin. I mounted it on a tall bookshelf to cover the sitting area. It had a motion sensor, a fresh battery, and an empty SD card for the long weekend. The bedroom phone was set to upload photos to my cloud every 6 hours. I left the house with 2 minutes to spare and received Sam's final signal. I met him in the parking lot, keeping an eye on the intersection of 3rd Street and Tompkins Parkway. We then swung by the KFC drive-thru and settled at Sam's table, surrounded by food and scattered papers. Our notebooks were filled with to-do lists, giving the impression we were plotting a major operation. I wasn't really hungry but picked at the chicken tenders and fries, more interested in the Jack Daniels Sam had mixed into my cola. "All right, time to text her," Sam said. "We need to keep up appearances." Nina was well aware of the spotty cell signal in the mountains and used it to avoid any awkward calls from me. Our standard procedure was to send a text just in case. I found a signal while hiking and managed to send the message. I stared at the screen, uncertain of what to write. "Let me handle that," Sam said, grabbing the phone. "Just go with what you normally say." He scrolled through our previous texts and read aloud as he typed, "Hey babe, we arrived without a hitch. The weather's looking promising. We'll be hitting the trail bright and early tomorrow. I'll check in later. Zoxo, Jake." He sent the text and dialed another number. "Next up is the lawyer," Sam said. He mentioned Hannah Fields, who had been helpful to him in his divorce and would be good for me too. He handed me the phone and introduced me. "Hello," a warm voice answered. "Jake, Sam didn't mention your last name," she said. "Karis, but just Jake is fine," I replied. "All right, Jake. I understand this situation has arisen suddenly and rather poorly," she said. "Yeah, it's been pretty rough." "Sorry for the language," I said. She laughed. "No need to apologize. If you can't vent to your lawyer, who can you vent to?" she said. I felt a bit more relaxed. "So, are you my lawyer? Do I need one?" I asked. "Let's address the second question first. This is about infidelity, right? Are you open to reconciliation or counseling?" she asked. "No way," I replied. "Good. Are you prepared to use the court's online system to file on your own?" she asked. "That's for no-fault cases, right?" "I can't use it for infidelity," I replied. "That's correct. If you want infidelity to influence alimony and other factors, you'll need an attorney," she explained. "Can you represent me?" "Sam said you did a great job for him," I asked. Did he inform you of the cost? She inquired. Yes, he did, I confirmed. Our rates have increased a bit, but I'll charge you the same as Sam. Does that sound fair? She proposed. Yes. When can we meet? I asked. I can fit you in on Monday morning, she said. I covered the phone and whispered to Sam, she's eager to start because the case is intriguing. Sam grinned. I told you so. Miss Fields, that works for me. Should I bring any evidence? I asked. Do you already have evidence? I assume you've only just discovered the betrayal, she inquired. Yes, we have screenshots from her profile showing her with another man last night. I've also set up a camera in the bedroom to capture any further activity over the weekend, I explained. So, she was advertising for partners online. That's quite revealing, she noted. And she seemed to be looking for guys who resemble me, I added. Just to clarify, haven't you gained a considerable amount of weight since you got married? She asked. No, not really, I replied. I'm 6 feet tall and weigh 180 pounds, only 5 pounds more than when we got married. I work out regularly and run, I explained. Good to know. We'll discuss this more on Monday, she said. Great. That's reassuring. Okay, Jake, after we finish up here, I'll set up a secure data transfer site and send you the login credentials. Sam knows the site address. Send me any evidence you have, and I'll review it before our meeting at 11 a.m. on Monday, she instructed. 11 o'clock on Monday? I confirmed. Yes. I'll see you then, I said. And Jake? She added. Yes? I responded. Avoid your wife until we meet. Don't go home. I specialize in family law, not criminal law, she advised. All right, I said. Okay. After receiving the secure code from the lawyer and sending her screenshots of Nina's profile, Sam checked my phone. Nina had responded promptly, miss you, but hope you're having fun. Happy hunting. Love you, Nina. Sam crafted a reply saying we hadn't bagged any deer yet and were heading to bed for the night. He then placed the phone in his safe, explaining, this will act like a Faraday cage. I'll send the message, but the signal will be blocked. I'll turn off the power, so when you turn it back on, it'll look like the message was delayed due to a poor signal. You watch too many spy movies, I said, though I was thankful. Sam then recounted his divorce experience, describing how he had to cover the mortgage and spousal support for his ex-wife, even though she was still seeing someone else. I hoped Nina's infidelity might spare me from a similar fate. We put Sam's advice into action. I closed investment accounts and changed the passwords for all of Nina's online accounts. I updated contact information to my new phone and email, canceled joint credit cards, and reduced the limit on the card Nina used for daily expenses. As the 6-hour mark approached, it was time to review the initial data upload to my cloud account. I nearly lost my appetite for KFC when I saw what my wife had been up to. The phone had been set to take 6 pictures every 30 seconds, every 15 minutes. The first batch of photos showed an empty bed, now made with different pillowcases. Out of 11 sets of images, 6 were blank, and the remaining 5 revealed Nina with 2 other men. I need to get out of here, I groaned, struggling to keep my bile down. Yeah, let's go, Sam agreed. Come on, I'll buy you a drink. No, I need to be alone, I insisted. I don't think that's a good idea, Sam said. Damn it, Sam, I need to throw up. I need to cry. I need to be alone, I persisted. I understand, but getting caught driving drunk or getting into trouble won't help, Sam advised. I'll avoid bars and stay away from home. Just suggest driving on the highway, he said. Sam reluctantly agreed and sent the photos to Hannah Fields. Before I left, he reminded me to turn on my phone so Nina would receive the message and he could check in on me. I thanked him and set off, promising to stay away from alcohol. I drove 30 minutes north, letting the night fully set in. The supermarket was still open, so I parked and made my way to my house via the alley. The back gate was locked, but I climbed over the fence, crossed the yard quietly, and peered through a gap in the curtains. Nina was in bed with someone. As I moved toward the back door, my phone beeped with a message and then a call from Sam. I ignored it and continued. Suddenly, from the darkness, I heard, "I see you, idiot." It was Sam, standing in his truck bed. "Get over here, or I'll start honking," he warned. I moved to the fence, making more noise than I intended. I wanted to avoid drawing attention from the neighbors. "What the hell?" I hissed. "She's in there with some guy." "I'm going to teach him a lesson," Sam declared. "Get out of here, or I'll call the police myself," I threatened. I climbed into the truck bed, and we drove away quietly, stopping at a bar on Tompkins Parkway, just 2 blocks from the supermarket. We sat in a back booth, and Sam made me drink a shot of Mark Beam and sip a Budweiser before letting me speak. "I've had enough. She's turned my home into a brothel. I'll never go back there, but I can't let this disrespect go unanswered," I vented. "All right then. Let's put a stop to it," Sam said, catching me off guard. "What?" I asked. "Give me your phone," he said. He took it, navigated to my contacts, and called Nina, putting the call on speaker. After 5 rings, Nina answered, breathless, "Jake, why are you? I mean, what a pleasant surprise. You must really miss me, huh?" "Hi, Nina. It's Sam," he said. "Sam, why are you calling?" "Is Jake all right?" she asked, sounding concerned. "He's had a minor accident. It's not serious, but I might have to take him off the mountain tonight." "Just wanted to keep you informed," Sam explained. "Oh my God, what happened? Can I talk to him?" Nina's voice trembled with panic. "Calm down, it's not as bad as it sounds. He had a fall and hit his head on a tree branch. He's resting with an ice pack," Sam assured her. "If he shows any unusual symptoms, I'll take him to the hospital." "Do I need to come over?" she asked. "No, as I said," Sam said, rubbing his thumb over the phone's microphone and slipping it under the table. "There's no need." "Sam, I didn't catch that last part," Nina said, her confusion evident. Sam tapped the microphone again and mumbled, "Lie. 1 bar now, tomorrow." Then he abruptly ended the call. "All right," Sam said. "We've managed to handle it." For the first time in 24 hours, I found myself laughing. After hanging up, I was eager to see if our ruse had worked. Sam was confident that Nina would kick the soldier out and cancel her plans if she thought I was hurt. As we walked back from the bar to my house, Sam mentioned that Nina had probably instructed her visitors to park far from our place to avoid drawing attention. "How considerate of her," I said with a smirk. "Shoo, I think that's him," Sam whispered. Ahead, a man in an army uniform was approaching us. Sam positioned himself between us. "Good evening," Sam greeted the soldier, who merely grunted in response. Sam stopped and turned, making the soldier stop and face us. "He looks like you did when you were younger," Sam said, nodding toward me. The soldier's eyebrows knitted together, and his eyes widened as he looked back and forth between us. "Young man, meet your real husband," Sam said. "You have a taste for married women, don't you?" I snarled. Sam stepped in front of me, barking, "Calm down, buddy. Didn't you notice any pictures that resembled an older brother when you were at that married woman's place?" Sam asked. I could see his anger now. Sam had been calm, but the situation was clearly dragging up his own pain. "She said she's divorced," the soldier stammered. "Not yet, but she will be soon," I growled. "Oh crap," the soldier said as he turned to flee. I was ready to chase him down, but Sam blocked me. No, man, no, he said firmly. For a moment, I almost pushed my best friend aside, but then I saw the anguish on his face. I lost Lisa to a cheater. I don't want to lose you, too. I took a deep breath and relaxed, though I still wanted to go after the soldier. You've already lost the main battle, Sam said. Attacking him will win you a small skirmish but lose the war. It'll only make you look foolish and could land you in jail. I slumped, disheartened. Maybe I'll deal with him later, I said. In 6 months, after we've set up an alibi for you. Sam gave a reassuring grin. We settled into my rental car in the supermarket parking lot. Nina had already kicked the soldier out, and Sam was convinced we had thwarted her infidelity. Though Sam was frustrated with my fixation, he agreed to give me 1 more hour. We spent half of it at the bar, sipping beers, and then returned to the car. A Nissan Sentra with out-of-state plates pulled into the lot, and a man got out. He looked remarkably like me, perhaps a relative. He wandered up 3rd Street while I ran up 2nd, planning to circle back to my house. Sam followed him to make sure I didn't confront him. I waited at the corner of Maple and 3rd as the man checked the house number and approached our front door. I hid behind a tree, observing. He rang the doorbell, and Nina partially opened the door. Although I couldn't see her, her voice was audible but too faint to decipher. The door closed briefly, then he knocked louder. Nina opened it only on the security chain, saying, "I'm sorry, but it's over now. Please leave before I call the police." The door slammed shut, and I heard the deadbolt engage. The man stood there, realizing he had come all this way for nothing. "What the hell?" he muttered, but his rant was cut short when the porch light from a neighboring house flicked on. As the door opened, he quickly walked away, disappearing onto the sidewalk. Thanks to some curious retirees, I was spared from being seen. I waited until the coast was clear, then hurried down 3rd Street, resisting the urge to knock on my own front door. Sam was waiting for me around the corner of Elm, and we drove back to Tompkins. In the supermarket parking lot, we heard tires screeching as someone sped off. "Anger and driving don't mix," Sam said. "Very dangerous," I agreed. Saturday morning, after a restless night in Sam's guest room, I reviewed the camera footage from the previous night. Nina had been restless, too. Finding nothing new, I prepared photos of Nina's encounters to send to my attorney. Should I include the video I took through the window? I asked Sam. "Hell no," he replied. "What you have from the other camera is enough. Let's not mention going into the house." "Do you think that soldier freaked out?" I asked. Sam grinned. "Probably. I hope he stops showing off before he meets a husband who's armed and ready." "Thanks for ruining my mood," I said. "Let's send Hannah the alarm call. That should lift your spirits." I turned on my phone and saw a dozen missed calls and messages from Nina. I called her back. "Hey, babe, it's Jake. Sorry if Sam scared you. I'm fine now. I'll stick to the plan and see you Monday night. Love you." I hit send, and immediately Hannah called back. "Hey Hannah, didn't expect to hear from you on a Saturday morning." "Hey Jake, I saw your new package on the website," she said. I covered the microphone and asked Sam, should I tell her? He nodded. "Hannah, I'm putting you on speaker so Sam can fill you in on how Nina's night ended on a surprisingly quiet note," I said. "Good morning, Hannah," Sam said as he joined the call. "Morning, Sam. What's been going on? Did my comments about Lisa have any effect?" Hannah asked. Sam recounted the prank call and text messages we'd sent to Nina, omitting the details about sneaking around or confronting the soldier. "I like that strategy," Hannah said after he finished. "Are you certain she's canceled her other dates?" "Actually, she just responded to my last message," I said. "Forget about the deer. Come home." I need you. I love you. Please come home now. See? Sam said with a knowing look. See what? Hannah asked, puzzled. That despite everything, she really still loves him, Sam explained. Hannah, have you ever come across people with extreme sexual compulsions or other severe mental disorders in your practice? I asked, my voice tinged with frustration. I've had clients with significant mental health issues, Hannah replied after a pause. It's certainly possible. And am I just supposed to accept that? Forgive her if she claims it wasn't really her fault? I asked, barely containing my anger. From what I've seen in the photos, I don't think you can unsee them every time you look at her, Hannah said. If she's diagnosed with a disorder, it could affect the terms of the divorce, but no judge will deny you a divorce after all she's orchestrated. The gravity of the conversation pushed me to make a decision. Hannah, how quickly can you file the papers? I can't live with her anymore. I understand, she said. I'll have some options ready for us to go over on Monday. We'll probably need to have a meeting with her and her attorney before finalizing anything. All right, but what should I tell her if I don't come home Monday night? I asked. You won't need to tell her anything. I'll handle that, Hannah assured me. For now, just wait. You've covered all the bases. Avoid doing anything hasty. Sam smirked and added, I'm doing my best to keep him from messing things up, but he's determined to try. By the way, Jake, Hannah said, didn't you mention something about still being good for 10K? Sam and I froze, unsure if Hannah was referring to my stamina. Yeah, I might have said something along those lines, I replied, cautiously. Good. Run along now. Bye, boys, she said, ending the call. Nina called again, but I turned off my phone. Following Hannah's advice, I went out to buy new running gear, since I hadn't packed any. Sam joined me for a run, but we cut it short after 3 miles, pushing beyond his usual comfort zone. Still feeling restless, Sam suggested a different way to channel my frustration. We returned the rifles to his truck and drove an hour to a shooting range. I ended up firing far more rounds than Sam, who finished cleaning his rifle first and struck up a conversation with the range master. They exchanged a few glances in my direction. What did he say? I asked Sam as we drove back. He asked if I could keep you from aiming at anything but paper targets. I assured him I could, Sam replied. When we got back to his apartment, Sam promptly secured my rifle in his weapon safe. The weekend was agonizing, with Sam keeping me occupied. We watched Marvel movies, and he made sure to limit my whiskey consumption, interspersing it with non-alcoholic drinks. He managed my messages to Nina, telling her I was doing well and still on the hunt. On Sunday, he texted her that I was planning to spend the day in a tree stand. She's starting to call you an idiot for not coming home, Sam chuckled. Wait until she gets served with divorce papers, I replied. Part of me relished the revenge, but mostly I was devastated. I loved Nina and thought she loved me too. Maybe she had a mental breakdown. I wondered if I'd need therapy myself. After another sleepless night, I woke up Monday morning feeling exhausted but resolute about the divorce. Nina had planned and enjoyed her infidelity far too much. We texted her that we were leaving again that morning and wouldn't be back until late. I apologized for scaring her on Friday and reassured her that I was fine. We sent this message from the supermarket parking lot near our house. Her response came quickly. You made me suffer all weekend and still can't give up that deer to come home early. Maybe you should just stay at Sam's because I don't want to see you right away. I couldn't help but smile at the irony of her suggestion, which aligned perfectly with my plan. 15 minutes later, I saw her car heading down 3rd Street and turning right onto Tompkins, her usual route to work. I parked in the alley behind our house, avoiding the front to prevent any curiosity from neighbors. Once the coast was clear, I climbed over the fence and entered through the back door. I retrieved my camera from the living room and my new cell phone from the bedroom. I then grabbed a suitcase from the second bedroom, which had been intended as a nursery but was now a closet and pantry. That dream was shattered, adding to my heartbreak. I packed the suitcase with clothes, gold coins from the safe, and my laptop. I figured Nina would hear the bad news from Hannah before realizing I'd been in the house. Back at Sam's, I removed the SD card from the camera and plugged it into the computer. Exhausted, I brushed my teeth and collapsed fully dressed onto the bed. Sam called to let me know the videotaping was done. In the living room, Sam was making breakfast sandwiches in the microwave, and coffee was brewing. "Ah, the bachelor life," he joked. "Check out the rest of the footage. It might help you feel better." My laptop was on the coffee table with a shot of whiskey beside it. At 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, I was diving into the life of a soon-to-be divorced man. Why not? I downed the shot and braced myself to review the footage. Sam was right, it did offer a strange sort of comfort. The video footage from Friday night through Monday morning turned out to be more captivating and revealing than I'd anticipated. After the soldier departed, the camera captured Nina wandering around the house, her phone glued to her ear or her fingers furiously typing away, clearly trying to check up on me. This pattern persisted throughout the entire weekend, including Saturday and Sunday nights. Her frustration grew more palpable as I continued to ignore her pleas in favor of focusing on my hunting trips. I noticed Nina tidying up, returning items that had been missing from the living room, mainly pictures of me. Sam, seated beside me, munched on sausage biscuits and sipped his black coffee. "Damn," I said, realizing how thoroughly she'd erased me from the home. That guard wasn't exaggerating when he said Nina had filed for divorce. "Wait, rewind," Sam interrupted. "Go back to the end of Friday. What did you see?" I rewound the footage to an earlier part. "Look at her hands," he pointed out. Nina was seen pacing the living room, texting away with both hands. I then noticed no rings. I skipped forward to around 10:30 Saturday morning. There they were. She had played the part of the newly single woman to the very end. When I arrived at my attorney Hannah Fields' office, she greeted me with a professional demeanor. She was tall, dressed in a sharply tailored suit, and had striking features. I found myself fixated on her dark amber eyes as she took in my appearance. 6 feet, 180 pounds, a long-distance runner with some muscle. "I suppose the rest of your self-description checks out," she said, making it clear she was taking me seriously. "Take a seat, Jake. I can imagine it's been a tough weekend. How are you holding up?" Hannah asked. "It's been rough," I admitted. "Any updates from Nina?" I handed her my phone, showing her some of Nina's messages, including one urging me not to come home. "This just arrived while I was parking," I said, handing over the device. Hannah read aloud, "Baby, please ignore my last message. Yes, I'm angry, but I need you home. I'm dying here without you. Please, Jakey." Hannah assessed the situation. "It doesn't seem like your wife's intention was to completely drive you away. I suspect once she realizes you're aware of everything, she'll back off," she said. I nodded. "I can't just pretend this didn't happen," I said. "Of course not," Hannah agreed. "But if she explains and promises it won't happen again, would you consider forgiving her?" Hannah's question was met with my frustrated response. "I have to ask about reconciliation, Jake. The judge will likely require it, and I sense you still have feelings for her," she continued. "I do, but I can't see how we can move past this. You saw the photos and clips, but you didn't endure the entire experience," I replied. Hannah seemed to understand immediately. "I get it. But as a family lawyer, my job is to explore if there's a chance to salvage the family. Nina will likely resist the idea of separation, but she can't force you into marriage counseling, not in this case. All right, let's discuss your strategy and sort out the property and financial matters if you want to proceed with filing quickly, I said. Since this is based on infidelity, do I still need to give her half of everything and pay alimony, given that my income is double hers? I inquired. Hannah spent the morning addressing these and other questions. By 1 p.m., after a delivery of deli sandwiches, she had outlined a plan to minimize the financial fallout and preserve my position. It was time to take action, and I gave her the nod. Hannah put my phone on speaker and dialed Nina's number. The call was answered almost immediately. "Jakey, where are you? Are you coming home? Are you okay? What on earth are you playing at, idiot? Oh God, baby, I need you. Where are you?" Nina's frantic voice came through the speaker. "Mrs. Lawson. Mrs. Lawson." Hannah nearly shouted to cut through Nina's panic. "What? Who is this? Oh my God. Where's Jake? What happened to Jake?" Nina's distress was evident. "Mrs. Lawson," Hannah spoke louder, "I'm a lawyer, and I'm calling on Mr. Lawson's phone with his permission. This call is being recorded. Do you mind?" Nina's voice faltered, still filled with anger and confusion. "Why is it being recorded? Who are you?" Nina demanded. "My name is Hannah Fields, and I'm an attorney with Green Family Law in Springville. Your husband, Zacchaeus Lawson, has hired me to represent him in the dissolution of your marriage," Hannah stated firmly. "The dissolution?" Nina repeated, stunned. "Yes, Mr. Lawson wishes to expedite the dissolution of your marriage in a private manner," Hannah confirmed. Nina seemed overwhelmed, barely able to process the information. "Yes, Mrs. Lawson, typically we'd serve you with divorce papers, but Mr. Lawson hopes to settle this outside of court. Please contact your attorney as soon as possible," Hannah instructed. "Attorney?" Nina echoed, still in shock. "Yes, do you have a pen and paper?" "I'll give you my contact information," Hannah offered. "No, I don't," Nina replied. "I'll send you my details via message. After that, this phone will be deactivated, and you won't be able to reach Mr. Lawson through it," Hannah explained. "But I need to talk to Jake. This isn't right. We love each other. Is he there? I really need to speak with him," Nina pleaded desperately. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Lawson, but Mr. Lawson isn't ready to talk at the moment. Please have your attorney get in touch with me." "Goodbye," Hannah responded with firm finality. As Nina began to speak again, Hannah ended the call. "Well, that went as expected," Hannah said, her tone dripping with a mix of sarcasm and sadness. She sent a text with her office details to Nina's phone before disconnecting it. "Are you all right?" I asked, feeling a strange sense of role reversal. I'm usually focused on protecting spouses from being mistreated, but cases like this just drain me. "There's something off about this situation, Jake. I think you're making the right decision, but I don't sense any real malice from your wife. For reasons we don't fully understand, maybe an overpowering need, she's wrecked her life. And neither of you will find happiness this way." She looked reflective. "Damn, I'm not even 30 yet. Have I already seen the last happy day of my life?" Hannah shook her head vigorously. "No, it's tough now, but it's not the end. We'll connect you with a therapist. If you commit to counseling, you'll recover more quickly. Sam waited too long to seek help, and it caused him unnecessary pain. Don't make the same mistake." "Yeah, it cost me," Sam agreed a few hours later as we chowed down on chicken wings, shrimp, and Bloody Marys at a downtown sports bar. I used to think therapy was just a bunch of psychological nonsense, but I ended up wallowing in my own mess like a clogged toilet. "You talked to me for a bit, but you could have said more," I said, trying to ignore his unappealing metaphor. "I knew you had my back, but seeing you and Nina so happy only made things worse until I sought external counseling." "But why?" I asked. Because you and Nina looked perfect together, and it made me grieve for what I had lost. Realizing I'd been living a lie for so long hurt even more, Sam said. I sipped my drink, struggling with my thoughts. After seeing Hannah's therapist, I finally saw you two as a glimmer of hope, rather than a painful reminder of my past. And now it's all turned out to be another lie, I said. Damn me, he muttered. Damn me, I echoed, raising my glass in a toast. We clinked quietly and took deep sips. Hey Jake, have a seat, Hannah Fields called out when I entered a small conference room on Tuesday afternoon. Papers were spread out on the table. I had taken the day off after updating my work details on Monday. I'd spent most of the day at Sam's, searching for a new apartment since I couldn't stay in my devastated house. I ran 5 miles in the morning and another 3 before meeting Hannah, hoping the endorphins would keep me calm. Hannah had spoken with Nina that morning and said I needed to hear Nina's side of things in person. When the receptionist led me to the conference room, I half expected to see Nina and her lawyer waiting. Hannah laughed lightly, ushering me into the empty room. No, just us. We need some space to work, she said. As I sat down, she added, Nina wanted to be here to explain, but if this were a TV show, it would be a classic showdown. I'm glad it's not television, I replied. Hannah flashed me a wicked grin. As I thought about our meeting the day before, I felt relieved that Hannah wasn't like Nina at all. I think you'll be surprised, Hannah said. But it would be better if you heard it from Nina. Stop escalating things, I said. What do you mean? That she did it all for you, Hannah replied. I'm sure she got more than she bargained for, I said, shocked. What the hell? I barely managed to suppress my expletive. The smirk vanished from Hannah's face as she placed her hand over mine, which had clenched into fists on the table. She claimed I was some kind of willing betrayed man, I added, my voice rising as I started to stand. Hannah grabbed my wrist. No. Oh God, Jake, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to come across that way. I'm truly sorry, Hannah said, trying to calm me. I relaxed slightly, still staring at her. Nina didn't say that. She's very upset that you found out and left her, Hannah explained. Left her? I hadn't considered it that way, but I admitted, yes. Then what did you mean by, she did it all for me? I asked. The baby, Hannah said quietly. The realization hit me hard. Nina and I had been trying to conceive for 11 months. She found someone like me to impregnate her since I hadn't succeeded. Her desperation for a baby drove her to such extreme measures. She was doing this to get pregnant? I asked, seeking confirmation. Yes, Hannah replied, pushing some papers toward me. It was a lab report from 3 months ago, ordered by Nina's gynecologist. I took a moment to understand that Dr. Mitchell had provided 2 samples from patient 25473, both with low counts. Am I patient 25473? I asked. Hannah nodded. But how did she get the samples? I inquired, noticing Hannah's embarrassment. She secretly collected samples for analysis when you couldn't get her pregnant after 6 months, Hannah explained. Instead of discussing it with me, she sought out men who resembled you and accepted their donations in the old-fashioned way. She said your insurance didn't cover art, which is costly, and you had already used your savings on the house. I slumped forward, my forehead resting on the desk, overwhelmed. So, if Nina's scheme pans out, I won't be stuck with child support payments, right? Hannah's face grew even more somber. Unfortunately, you'll still need to undergo testing. Your sperm count is low, but it's not completely non-existent. Why is that? I asked, confused. Nina realized she was exposed and, with the divorce looming, she rushed to her OBGYN for the morning after pill, Hannah explained. But today isn't the morning after. She was with her first guy on Thursday night, I interjected, puzzled. Dr. Mitchell confirmed it. Nina asked her to contact you, Hannah said. Nina had gone to extreme lengths to get pregnant, and now, facing the reality of not having me as a father, she was trying to erase the mistake. It was deeply unsettling. Then it hit me, she set all this up right before my hunting trip. She was gearing up to get pregnant and intended to reinforce the idea with me on Monday. Who knows what STDs she might have picked up, I said. Hannah squeezed my hand comfortingly. STDs are definitely a concern, but Nina was aware of that too when she made the appointment. After our meeting yesterday, I reviewed the security footage and noticed something odd about her visits. She frequently checked her visitors' smartphones. She did the same thing a month ago, Hannah said. Oh crap, I muttered. What's up? Hannah asked. She did this a month ago too. I still have to get tested, I said. Yes, Nina admitted this was her first attempt. When that didn't work, she tried again during your hunting trip and planned to return to Fidelity afterward, Hannah explained. I thought we agreed on having 2 or 3 kids, I said, struggling to push away the painful thoughts. Did you mention something about camera footage and STDs? Yes. Did you notice how Nina often checked her visitors' smartphones shortly after their arrival? Hannah asked. Yes, I assumed she was verifying their invites, I replied. She was actually checking their current STI and HIV test results, Hannah clarified. My disbelief was palpable. They get tested regularly? I asked. Yes, they do, Hannah confirmed. So what's the big deal? I asked Sam later, over pizza and beer. Do you get tested regularly and carry the results? Actually, yes. I always use protection and carry my lab results with me. If I start dating again, I'll probably keep doing that, Sam said. When you start dating again, he emphasized. But yeah, I'd recommend it. Man, I gotta say, he continued, I'm surprised Nina's lawyer let her spill so many details so early in the process. Nina doesn't have a lawyer yet, Hannah explained. I found her outside her office this morning and insisted we talk. I advised her to hire a lawyer, but Nina was convinced that once you knew the truth, you'd call off the divorce. And how did that work out? Sam asked. Hannah said Nina was so sure her plan was foolproof that you'd come back that night. Sam handed me another beer as we sat in his apartment. I planned to stay there while deciding if I could remain in the same town as Nina, let alone in the same house. A week and a half later, I was back in the conference room at Green Family Law. Hannah and I sat on one side, while Nina and her attorney faced us from the other side. Mr. Lawson, Ms. Fields, said the balding lawyer, we have 2 major issues. First, Mrs. Lawson insists on staying married. Second, if reconciliation isn't an option, the proposed agreement is insufficient. It suggests a 50-50 split of assets but doesn't account for all marital property, and the proposed spousal support is both inadequate and short-lived. Hannah tapped my foot under the table, giving me a look that said, I told you so. I gave a slight nod in acknowledgement. Mr. Carson, Hannah interjected, Mr. Lawson has agreed to cover 60% of your client's legal fees as part of the asset division. This demonstrates exceptional fairness from a man who's been wronged. The judge will consider this if we can't settle these issues here. I wanted to wrap this up and ensure Nina received fair treatment, not to get half of everything but to avoid ending up in a worse situation or moving in with her parents. Nina had refused to hire a lawyer, thinking we shouldn't divorce. With her salary, she could only afford a substandard lawyer. So, I asked Hannah to find someone competent for her. And, Hannah continued, what about my client's well-being? You've seen the evidence, Mr. Carson. Imagine the torment he endures every night with those disturbing images. It was dramatic, but Hannah wasn't exaggerating. I struggled with therapy, even though Hannah and Sam assured me it would help. Ironically, the psychiatrist's consultation was covered by my health plan, unlike Art, which could have prevented all this. "I'm so sorry, Jakey, so sorry," Nina sobbed. Carson squeezed her hand again. "Miss Fields," Carson said, "while I sympathize with Mr. Lawson, our state's laws don't account for these matters when dividing marital property or determining spousal support." "Mr. Carson," Hannah snapped, "if your client doesn't accept the proposed settlement, we won't file it." "If this goes to court," she said, placing her hand on a thicker stack of papers, "this petition will be filed on the grounds of your client's infidelity. The settlement terms here are far more generous." I saw his hand tremble as he hesitated to open the package. "Okay, I've ensured Nina gets fair representation. Making this case public would be embarrassing for Mr. Lawson, but it would be catastrophic for Mrs. Lawson, especially since we will subpoena the names of all her affair partners and conduct a paternity test on the child she tried to conceive with them." Nina gasped, her breath catching as despair washed over her. "Stop it." Carson's voice cracked with indignation. "There's no need for such rudeness, Miss Fields. Mrs. Lawson took extreme measures to avoid getting pregnant, despite her desire for a child with Mr. Lawson, a desire he shares." "My baby, our baby," I murmured, the pain cutting deep. Hannah placed her hand gently on mine and pressed her foot against mine, offering a faint semblance of comfort. "But it would be ours," Nina cried out. "It would be ours, yours and mine." The lawyers agreed on a brief recess. Hannah guided me to her office while Carson escorted Nina outside. When we reconvened, Carson's voice was heavy with frustration. Mrs. Lawson resorted to drastic measures, driven by her husband's stubbornness to prevent conception, even though the child could have been Mr. Lawson. Hannah, sensing my growing frustration, stood her ground but spoke softly to Nina. "We recognize Mrs. Lawson made a difficult choice and acted in the best interests given the circumstances. Mr. Lawson and I are aware of the pain she must be enduring." Turning back to Carson, she continued, "Unfortunately, it's not clear whether your client's intervention was successful. She might still be pregnant. We need to address this issue directly." I glanced at Nina, who looked as though she might collapse. Hannah pressed on, "According to the agreement, any child resulting from this situation would not be considered Mr. Lawson's responsibility. He will undergo a paternity test to confirm this. If this matter goes to court, we'll require the same from any potential fathers." Hannah wanted to add a point about potential complications if Nina decided to carry the baby, but I vetoed that idea. There was already enough tension in the room. Nina gripped her lawyer's hand tightly. They had clearly discussed their next steps. "All that aside," Carson said, "we'd like to revisit Mrs. Lawson's initial position, avoiding divorce altogether. Instead, she and her husband should attend counseling and find a way to start a family." My frustration boiled over. Why couldn't she have done this from the start? I almost shouted. Why not just talk to me instead of resorting to cheating? "Mr. Lawson," voices overlapped before I slammed my fist on the table. I glared at the surface, speaking through clenched teeth. "I'm already in counseling. My therapist says the why question is like a funnel that needs to be filled before I can heal. He suggested I ask Nina to join a session, but now I need to understand why she chose to involve strangers in our lives instead of confronting me about the issue." Carson began. My client didn't, but Nina cut him off. "I didn't want to hurt you by telling you that you couldn't give me a baby. You're so focused on your physicality, and I didn't want you to think you weren't enough," Nina insisted. "Oh my God, am I really such an idiot?" I asked, grappling with the possibility that I'd overlooked a fundamental flaw in our relationship. "No," she said quickly. "I misspoke. If we could have afforded IVF, would have told you. But we couldn't. We wanted to start a family now. So it was about the donor, not breaking free from our marriage's monotony?" I asked, trying to understand. Exactly, Nina responded. Why would I want to run away? She asked defensively. So you didn't enjoy it? I pressed. Nina flinched but continued. Don't you see? Yes, I called them folders, but they were really all about you. Any memories were tied to you. Like those multiverse comic book movies you love. I could add memories of being with you, whether younger or older, to the wonderful times we shared. And when you thought back on those moments, feeding the child one of those alternate selves had created, you always thought of your real self, right? She grimaced at my words but nodded. Yes, always about you. I turned to look at Hannah, who raised her eyebrows in a silent question. I nodded in response. Hannah reached for the other folder marked in red, the nuclear option. As I spoke, Hannah slowly laid out a series of photos on the table for Nina and her lawyer to see. The 8x10 color photographs, taken from the front and back cameras of our house, as well as a video I had recorded Friday night while spying, were laid bare. Nina's face turned from gray to a sickly green, and she'd barely made it to the trash can before she was sick. Our house on 3rd Street sold quickly. Even though we had owned it for less than 2 years, it had appreciated enough to clear the mortgage and cover moving expenses. I moved from Sam's apartment into a condo more suited for work, while Nina relocated back to her hometown. She managed to find a modest apartment instead of moving into her childhood bedroom. She wasn't pregnant, and she found a decent job that provided a reasonable lifestyle. Though paying child support for 5 months wasn't a significant burden, I was relieved she wouldn't be destitute once the payment stopped after the 6th month. Nina's betrayal still haunted me, though I knew her remorse was genuine. Her final letter expressed hope for reconciliation, but that seemed increasingly unlikely. Therapy had helped me channel my anger and despair, and I no longer saw myself as a total failure doomed to a life of monotony. As for Lisa, she ended up as a barista at Starbucks, blaming Sam for her woes despite a lack of evidence. The police had cleared him, with witnesses and surveillance footage proving he was at a Foo Fighters concert that night. Looking ahead, once I make the final spousal support payment, I'll have fulfilled all my divorce obligations, and Hannah Fields will no longer be my attorney. When she learned I attended an art exhibit and enjoyed it, she remarked wistfully that she wished our first date had been at the gallery too.